Good evening, all. Today is the first session for Dockers and Kubernetes. Dockers and Kubernetes. So today we are going to start. So as part of these classes, first we are going to learn Docker. After Docker completed, then we are going to learn Kubernetes. First we are going to learn the Docker, then we are going to learn Kubernetes. So here it is going to take 2 weeks of time to learn Docker and Kubernetes. Timings, so daily 8:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. IST, daily 1.5 hour or almost 2 hours up to. It is going to take to discuss our discussion related to have our discussion related to Dockers and Kubernetes. For Dockers, I have prepared the course content, guys. So for Kubernetes, I will prepare the content by tomorrow. I will share that with you. So for the Docker, what we are going to cover, what we are going to learn as part of our Docker syllabus. What is Docker? First, we are going to understand what is Docker and what are the problems we are going to face if we don't use Docker in our project, and what is the advantage of going for Docker. So introduction for Docker and a life without Docker, life with Docker, we are going to understand. Then Docker installation, how to set up the Docker in our Linux machine. I'm going to use AWS Cloud Virtual Machine. EC2 instance I'm going to use to install Docker. How to start the Docker service, how to stop the Docker, how to uninstall the Docker, all that installation related stuff we are going to understand. Then we will discuss about Docker architecture. What is a Docker client? What is a Docker daemon? What is a Docker hub? What is a Docker registry? Docker image? All these things we are going to understand as part of Docker architecture. After this, we need to learn some basic commands to work with the Docker. The Docker basic commands also we are going to learn, like Docker push command, Docker rm command, Docker login, Docker ps, Docker rmi, pull images, Docker containers, all these things we are going to learn. After these things, the most important thing that we need to learn here is how to create a Docker file. So if you want to use the Docker for a project, we need to create the Docker file. So writing the Docker file is the most important thing. How to write the Docker files that we are going to understand. Create a Docker files using touch command, creating the Docker files using Visual Studio Code, and what are the rules and regulations we need to follow while writing the Docker files that we are going to learn here. The next one is Docker images. So understand how to work with the Docker images, how to create our own images, how to tag the images, how to generate them, how to commit the images, how to remove the images, how to run them, inspect them. From the image, how to create the Docker containers, all those things we are going to understand. So Docker images, Docker containers. Then after Docker volume. So how to work with the Docker volume, and how to work with the Docker Compose, and how to work with the Docker Swarm, and implementing a Docker for a project. So these are the things that we are going to cover as part of Docker. So it is going to take a week of time to cover all these topics related to Docker. So what is Docker? Why Docker? Docker installation, Docker architecture, Docker commands, Docker file, Docker images, Docker containers, Docker volume, Docker compose, Docker swarm. So all these things we are going to cover as part of this. So this Docker knowledge is mandatory in order to understand Kubernetes. So I will share the Kubernetes content by tomorrow. So this is the content we are going to cover as part of Docker. Are you guys clear with this? Are you guys clear with this? Fine. Let's try to understand what is Docker today and why we need to go for Docker. Application development. Application development. Right. Guys, we are going to use several components as part of application development. Software project, collection of programs is called as software project. Is called as software project. Software project contains several components. Software project contains software project contains several components. So what are the components will be available in our software project? Front end component will be available. Front end components will be available for our software project. Backend components will be available. Backend logics will be available. Backend components will be available. And next one, database components will be available. Database components will be available in order to develop this application. So let us take an example. We are going to create one project by using Java. So this is the Java application we are going to develop. In this Java application, some web components will be available. So to execute our requests, web components will be available, and some business components will be available. Some business components will be available to execute the business logic, and some DAO components will be available. Persistent components will be available in order to communicate with the database. Web components will be available, then business components will be available, and persistent components also will be available to execute our application. Web components, business components, and persistent components. Persistent components are responsible to communicate with the database. So like this, several components will be available as part of one application development. Okay, fine. So now this application we developed, this is our Java backend application. This application is going to communicate with the database. This application is going to communicate with the database. All right. Now here I am using database server. My application is going to communicate with the database to perform the operations. Fine. Now we need to understand tech stack of this application. Now we need to understand tech stack of this application. Here, front-end components will be available. UI part will be available for our application. UI, that is nothing but user interface. Front-end will be available, and back-end is also available for our application. This is user interface. So this user interface is called as front-end of the project. Whatever end user can see on the browser, that is called as front-end. And this is called as back-end. So this is called as backend, and this is a DB, database will be available. Now, in order to develop this application, for front end, we are using HTML and CSS, HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, some Angular or React, some framework Angular framework we are using to develop front end part of our application, some jQuery plugins, and Angular we use it to develop our front end part. Coming to the backend part, in the backend part, we are using Java 1.8 version, and we are using Spring Boot 2.x version, and we are using Hibernate 5.6 version, Hibernate 5.6 version, Java 1.8 version. Okay. So here there are some technologies that are involved in our project development. Front-end technologies are available, back-end technologies are available. Now, along with this, I am using Oracle database or MySQL database. I can say that MySQL DB 8.5 version, 8.5 version of MySQL DB I am using for my project development. All right. Now, project development is happening with the multiple technologies. Some front-end technologies are available, some back-end technologies are available, and the database is available. Now, the project development is happening. So developers will set up all these softwares in their machine. So developer will install the Java, developer will download the Spring Boot, developer will download the Hibernate, developers will download the MySQL database, they will download that Angular framework, they will install the Angular framework, they will do environment setup in order to develop the project. So once the project development is completed, then developers are going to store the project into GitHub repository. So what the development team will do? So every project will have a development team. For example, this project is developed by using Java. So whatever the softwares are required to develop this Java application, the developers are going to download and they are going to install in their computer. Company will provide a computer for them. They will download all these softwares. They will install the softwares in their machine and they are going to run this application. Okay, fine. Developer's duty completed. After this, as a DevOps engineer, we are responsible to deploy this application. We need to deploy this application to multiple machines. Now let us see here. Let us see here. Development team is available. So development team completed their activity. So let me call it as a development team. Multiple people are involved here. Multiple people involved in the project development. Assume that there are 5 developers available for our project. These 5 developers are working on the code. In five developers have the laptop company provided. 5 developers installed all the softwares which are required to develop this Java application. They completed their task. Once their task is completed, developers are going to store their code into GitHub repository. Developers are going to store the code into GitHub repository. Now, it is the responsibility of the DevOps engineer to deploy the code into multiple machines. We can call it as environments. For our project, multiple environments will be available. We need to deploy the code into multiple environments. For example, here I'm taking GitHub repository. So this is our Git repository. So developers completed the task. Developers stored that code into GitHub repository. Now, here, as a DevOps engineer, we need to take the code from the GitHub repository and we need to deploy that code into multiple environments which are available for our application. For our application, multiple environments will be available. So in order to run the project, for developers, we will give one environment for testing purpose. So that is called as dev environment. For developers, we are providing one environment called dev environment. For SIT people, we will provide one environment called sit environment. For a client, we are going to provide one environment called UAT environment. For pre-prod testing, we are going to provide one environment called pilot. For production release, we are going to provide one environment called prod environment. So like this, in the real time, for one application, multiple environments will be available. In the real time, for one application, multiple environments will be available. So every environment is used by some set of people in our project to test our application. And finally, we are going to release this application to production. Finally, we are going to release the application to production. Fine. So who is doing the development? Development is doing by development team. After this development is completed, they are going to store the code into Git repository. Now it is the responsibility of the DevOps engineer to take the code from the GitHub repository and deploy into environment. Are we going to deploy the code into one environment, or we are going to deploy the code into multiple environments? Are we going to deploy the code into one environment, or we are going to deploy the code into multiple environments in the real time? Whenever the developers completed the code, are we going to deliver the code to the client directly? When the development is completed, are we going to deliver the project to the client directly? When the development is completed, are we going to deliver the project to the client directly? No. So once the development is completed, we need to test whether that code is working as expected or not. Once the development is completed, we need to test whether that code is working as expected or not. Okay, so for that, first dev environment will be used, then sit environment will be used, then UAT environment will be used, then pilot environment will be used, then prod environment will be used. Are you guys clear with my point? Okay. Now, environment means a machines, separate system will be available. Now, what I need to do in this dev environment, I need to use Linux operating system. I need to use Java 1.8 version only. I need to use the Java 1.8 version only, and I need to use Spring Boot, and I need to use MySQL database. Specific version software, specific version only, MySQL 8.5, I have to use. This environment I have to set up to run my project in the dev environment. Similarly, this environment, same version, same software, so same versions I have to install in all the environments in order to run our application. In order to run our application, we are going to install all these softwares in our all the machines. How many places you want to run your application? In all those places, you need to install all the softwares which are required to run our application. Are you guys able to understand my point? Are you guys able to understand my point? What is the challenging thing here? What is the challenging thing here for the DevOps team? What is the challenging thing for the DevOps team? Deploying the application in the multiple environments. Deploying the application into multiple environments is the challenging thing for the DevOps team. Okay, so now why it is a challenging thing? Why it is a challenging thing? In the dev environment, that means we need to take the machines. In that machines, all the required softwares, operating system, required softwares, required version should be installed. Suppose in this dev environment, we are having Java 11 version. Java 11 version available. Here, Java, in this UAT machine, Java 13 version available. In the prod environment, Java 1.6 version is available. Java 1.6 version is available. So do we have same softwares, same versions in all the machines, or we have different softwares, different versions in the machines? Different. So there are several machines available in our company, in our project. All the machines are having different configurations. So when the configurations are different, is it easy to run our application on the machines? No. We need one common platform where we can run our application easily. Okay, here dev environment means that will be used by the developers to do the testing. SIT environment will be used by testers for testing. SIT stands for system integration testing. It will be used by testing team to test our application. When the developers commit the code to Git repository, as a DevOps engineer, we are going to deploy the code into dev environment. Developers will perform the integration testing. Once the developers testing is completed, we are going to deploy the code to SIT environment. SIT stands for System Integration Testing Environment. Once our testers tested our application, then our application should be deployed to UAT environment. UAT stands for User Acceptance Testing. Client is going to test the application in the environment. So for client testing, we are going to prepare one environment called UAT. After that, pre-prod environment will be available. Before deploying our application to the production, we are going to deploy the application to pre-prod environment and we are going to test it. Once this pre-prod, that is called pilot. Once this pilot is completed, then we will deploy the project to production environment. So production environment is nothing but live environment. Production environment, nothing but live environment. So when we go for prod, public users can access our application. Now here, if you see, when we are developing one application, multiple components will be available. Front-end components will be available, back-end components will be available, database components will be available. In order to deploy our application, in order to deploy our application in one machine, we need to set up all the environment which is required. All the environment which is required to run our application. It can be operating system, it can be Java software, it can be a Spring software, or it can be database software. In order to deploy our application in a machine, In order to deploy our application in a machine, we need to set up all the softwares. We need to set up all the softwares which are required to run our application. Example, OS, operating system, Java 1.8 version, Java 1.8 version, MySQL DB, web server 9.0 version, Tomcat web server 9.0 I need, Tomcat web server 9.0 I need, like this. So here, several softwares we need to set up in order to deploy our application, right? In the real time, project should be deployed into multiple environments for testing. In real time, project should be deployed. Project should be deployed into multiple environments for testing purpose. Project should be deployed into multiple environments for testing purpose. So what environments will be available? Dev environment will be available, sit environment will be available, UAT environment will be available, pilot environment will be available, and prod environment will be available. Dev environment will be used by developers for developers code testing. Dev environment will be used by developers to perform integration testing. Sit environment will be used by testing team to test functionality of the application. UAT environment will be used by client to test application functionality. UAT environment will be used by client to test application functionality. Client to test functionality of the application. Got it. Pilot means pre-prod environment. Pilot environment means pre-production testing environment. Before going to deploy our application to the production, we are going to do the testing for that application by using pilot environment. Pilot environment means pre-production environment, pre-production testing environment. Prod environment means live environment. Prod means live environment. So it is used to deliver the project. So if you want to deliver a project to the client, then we need to deploy our application to multiple environments, and we need to test our application. If application functionality working as expected, then finally we will give to the client for testing in the UAT environment. If a client also satisfied with the functionality, then we will go for pilot. One more round of testing will happen in the pilot environment. Then finally we will go to prod environment and we will deploy in the production. Production deployment means live environment where people will access our application. Now guys, deploying the application into these many environments is an easy task or it is a difficult task now? Deploying the application to these many environments is easy or it is difficult? Difficult, because we need to take multiple computers to deploy our application. Come on guys, we need to take multiple computers to deploy our application. In every computer, do we have same version of Java? Do we have same version of operating system? Do we have same operating system? Do we have same version of Java? Do we have same version of the database? Do we have the same web server? Do we have same web server? Do we have same software, same versions of the software? It is difficult. It is difficult to manage these deployments into multiple environments. Why? Because whatever the Linux operating system which I installed in one machine, it may support with my application or may not support with my application. Whatever the Java 13 version I have installed in this Linux, it may support for my application, may not support for my application. So whatever the softwares, what are the versions of the softwares we are installing in all these environments may be compatible with my application, may not be compatible with my application. So deploying the application, in order to deploy the application to these many environments, we need to take care of all the softwares which are required to run our project. So to deploy these applications, to deploy application to these many environments, to deploy application to these many environments, to deploy the application to these many environments, we need to take care of all the softwares required to run our application in all environments. It is very difficult task. So what is the problem, you understand now? If you don't have a Docker, so you understand what is the problem? If you don't have a Docker, do you understand what is the problem? Application deployment into multiple environments is the problem. Are you guys able to follow my point? So developers are writing the code. Developers are testing the code. Developers are storing the code into GitHub repository. Their task is completed. Once that development task is completed, then deployment task is getting started. You need to deploy the application to multiple computers. We need to run our project into multiple computers. Do we need to deploy the project into multiple environments, or once the development is completed, can you directly take the code from the Git repository? Can we deploy in the production environment? Can we deploy the code from the Git repository to production directly? Is it recommended or it is not recommended? It is not recommended. We need to deploy the code into dev environment so that developers will test the project functionality working as expected or not. Every developer will test their code is working as expected or not. So here, to deploy the project into dev environment, what machine we are using, which operating system we are using, which version of the Java it is having, which version of the web server it is having, which version of the database it is having, all the softwares we need to take care in order to run our application. In the dev environment, Java 11 version is available. My project requires Java 8. Okay, so there is a version mismatch. There is a version mismatch. Now, here similarly, I need to deploy the project into SIT environment. In the SIT environment, Java 1.5 version is available. In the SIT environment, what happened, guys? Java 1.5 available, but my project developed by using Java 1.8. In the SIT environment, Linux machine is there with Java 1.5. My project cannot execute there. My project developed by using 1.8 version of Java, but in the SIT environment, Java 1.5 version is available. Java 1.5 version is available. Are you guys getting my point? So here, environmental dependencies will be available. Environmental issues will occur when you are going to deploy the project into multiple environments for testing. This is one of the challenging thing that DevOps team is going to face when they are going to work with the project's deployment. Jenkins, what is Jenkins? Jenkins will just take the code, will keep that code into server. That's it. Jenkins will not bother about which Java version you are using in the machine, which web server you are using. What is the duty of the Jenkins? Jenkins will take the code from the Git repository, will keep in the server. That's it. Jenkins is just to deploy the code. But in order to deploy and run the code, I need some softwares. I need operating system. I need software. I need a server. I need a database. Which version of the software is there? Is that version compatible with my application version or not? Who will Jenkins is going to take care of that? No. Jenkins is just going to take the code and keep in the server. I am talking about infrastructure. I'm talking about environment. I'm talking about environment. Guys, are you getting my point? What is the problem we are going to face when we are going to deploy our application? All right, fine. See here. What is a project? A project nothing but collection of programs. So software application means what? Collection of programs is called as one software project. Software project contains several components. Some projects, some components are called as front-end components for user interface. Some components are called as back-end components. Business logic will be available. Front-end components contains user interface logic, UI. Whatever you see on the website, that is called as UI component. Backend components will be available. Backend components contains business logic. Backend components contains business logic. Database components contains persistence logic. Database components nothing but persistence logic will be available. Okay, now my project is developed in three parts: front-end development, back-end development, and database development, database component development. Three parts are there. If I integrate all these three, then only one project will be ready. Front end will be available, back end will be available, database components also will be available. Front end nothing but user interface, presentation logic is available. Back end components nothing but business logic is available. Database components nothing but persistence logic is available. In order to deploy our application, in order to run this project, so we need front end softwares, and we need backend softwares, and we need database softwares. So here, to run one final project, we need to install all the softwares in our machine. Is it only one software? If I install just Java, can I run my project? Only with Java can I run my project? No. I need one machine. In that machine, I need one operating system. I need Java. I need a database. I need a server. I need some other softwares also in order to run our application. So application will have so many dependencies to execute. Application means Java application means only Java is not sufficient to run the project. Along with Java, we need several other softwares also to run our application. DevOps engineers are responsible to prepare that environment to install those softwares to run the project. If it is one computer, we can install. If it is one computer, we can install. But are we going to deploy the project to the production directly? No. Once the development is completed, we need to go for the dev environment deploy. We need to go for sit deploy. We need to go for UAT deploy. We need to go for pilot deploy. Then finally, we will go for production deployment. So if I want to deploy my application to these many environments, what about softwares? What about operating system? What about versions of the softwares? What about versions of the softwares? Who is going to take care of these versions? Who is going to take care of these versions? All these things are very, 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 very difficult. All these things are very, very, very difficult to manage. Are you guys able to follow me? Are you guys able to follow me? What is the difficult thing here? Can you guys tell me what is the difficult thing in the application deployment process? What is the difficult thing in the application deployment process? In the real time, our application should be deployed to multiple environments for testing. In the real time, our application should be deployed to multiple environments for testing purpose. Our application should be deployed to multiple environments for testing purpose. In order to deploy the application to multiple environments, we need to set up all the softwares, versions. We need to take care. We need to take care. Instead of we are taking care of all the softwares which are required for our application, we can use Docker. Docker is going to prepare the environment which is required to run our application. Do I need to prepare the environment, or Docker is going to prepare the environment? Do I need to prepare the environment, or Docker will prepare the environment? Docker will prepare the environment. Now, I am going to develop my project by using Docker. I'm going to develop my project by using Docker. When I develop my project by using Docker, which operating system we need, which version of the Java we need, which version of the MySQL we need, which version of the Tomcat we need, that everything will be taken care by Docker. Docker is going to prepare the environment to run our application. So you have one project. So by using Docker, we developed one project. I want to run my project in 10 computers. Some computers are Linux computers, some computers are Windows computers, some computers are Mac computers. No problem. Whatever the environment is required for our application to execute, Docker is going to take care of that. That concept is called as container concept. Docker containers are available in order to execute our application in any platform within fraction of seconds. You no need to take care of all the softwares and versions. Whatever is required, you just to tell to Docker, hey Docker, I want to execute my project in this environment. Then Docker will set up that environment in order to run our application. Now let us see what is this Docker. Let us see what is this Docker. Docker. So now, can you see Docker? What is this Docker? Docker is a set of platform as a service products that use OS level virtualization to deliver software in packages called containers. So whenever we are going to develop a project, earlier what people used to do, to run the project. Earlier, what people used to do to run the project. Earlier, if you want to run two projects in one machine, both projects are having different configurations. Both projects are having different configurations. Somebody asking why Ansible is available. I will come to that point, guys. I will compare Ansible and Docker. Don't worry. Now, let us see this requirement. Let us see this diagram. This diagram is not clear. Let me take one big diagram. Yeah. Right. Yes, guys, is this diagram clear? Is this diagram visible for you? Now, by using Ansible, you can create one machine. By using Ansible, you can create one machine, no problem. Okay. Now, in that machine, I want to run two applications. One application I want to run with Windows OS. Another application I want to run with Linux OS. Okay. Now, what we will do generally, if we want to run two applications in one machine, first we are going to create one virtual machine. In that virtual machine, one operating system will be available. This operating system is called as main operating system, or we can call as a host operating system. It is called as a host operating system, host OS. One operating system I used in this operating system. Let's assume that my operating system is Windows operating system. I created one virtual machine with Windows OS. I created one virtual machine with Windows OS. Now I want to run two applications on the Windows machine with the Linux operating system. Then what we will do? We are going to do virtualization concept. Earlier, before the Docker, people used to follow a concept called virtualization concept. What is the meaning of virtualization? In one software, in one operating system, we are going to install multiple operating systems. So first we are taking a Windows machine. That Windows OS is called as our host operating system. In the Windows OS, hypervisor software will be available. By using this hypervisor software, we can install other operating system. That means in one computer, we can install multiple operating systems. These are called as guest operating systems. These are called as guest operating system. Host operating system will be available. Guest operating system will be available. I want to run two applications in one computer. My computer is based on Windows operating system. I want to run two applications, application 1, application 2 with Linux operating system. Then what we will do? We are going to create one machine. In that machine, one operating system will be available. That operating system is called as host operating system. In the host operating system, hypervisor software we are going to install. Why hypervisor? For virtualization. In one OS, I want to install another OS. For that, we are going for virtualization concept. By using hypervisor, we are going to do that virtualization. Now, hypervisor installed. Once the hypervisor is installed, then I installed two guest operating systems. One is Linux operating system, another one is Unix operating system. One is Linux operating system, another one is Unix operating system. In the Linux operating system, I'm installing application A. In the Unix operating system, I'm installing application B. Earlier, people used to deploy the applications by using virtualization concept. So if you install two guest operating systems in one host operating system, your system performance will become slow and you need to install all the dependency files. First, Windows is available. Then guest operating system, I installed Linux. In the Linux, I need to install Java 1.8 version, then MySQL 5.6 version, server Tomcat 9.0 version. I need to install all the softwares in the operating system again, and I need to manage all the dependencies. That is the problem if we go with virtualization concept. To overcome this problem, what we are going to do? We are going to use Docker. When we use the Docker, we don't need to install the guest operating systems. My physical machine will be available. In that, only one operating system will be available. Then I will use Docker to run my application. So Docker is going to create the container to run our application. For one application A, one container will be created. For application 2, for application B, second container will be created. So if you want to run 10 applications in one machine, 10 Docker containers we can execute in one machine easily. But if I want to run 10 applications in normal virtualization concept, 10 operating systems I have to install. If you install 10 guest operating systems, your system performance will become very slow. That's why nowadays people are not going for virtualization concept. People are going for containerization concept. Now, let me show you the differences between virtualization versus containerization. Virtualization versus containerization. So Docker is a containerized software. Docker is used to achieve containerization. Now everybody is showing the same thing, same diagram, right? Host operating system will be available, guest operating system will be available. Before the Docker concept, people use it to follow virtualization. People use it to follow virtualization. You see, host server, operating system, hypervisor, then virtual OS, virtual OS, virtual OS. Three operating systems they installed in one machine to run our applications, VM1, VM2, VM3. If you install three virtual operating systems on one machine using hypervisor, system performance will become very slow. To overcome this problem, people are using containers called Docker containers. People are using Docker containers to run the application. When you go for a Docker container will take care of all the dependencies, all the softwares which are required to run our application. Are you guys clear with my point? What is virtualization and what is a containerization? Are you clear with my point? What is virtualization and what is a containerization? Yeah. So what is virtualization and what is a containerization? Can you guys tell me? What is virtualization and what is a containerization? Can you tell me? What is virtualization and what is containerization? Come on, guys, please respond. What is the difference between virtualization and containerization? Come on, guys. What is the difference between virtualization and containerization? Virtualization. What is virtualization? Installing multiple guest operating systems in one host operating system. Installing multiple guest operating systems in one host operating system is called as virtualization. Is called as virtualization. So it is old technique. It is old technique to run the applications. It is old technique to run the applications. So installing multiple guest operating systems in one host operating system is called as virtualization. It is old technique to run the application. We will achieve virtualization by using hypervisor concept. Hypervisor will be used. Hypervisor will be used to achieve this. Hypervisor will be used to achieve this. Now, we will install all the required softwares in the host operating systems and will deploy our application. We need to install all the required softwares in host OS to run our application. Okay, virtualization. Installing multiple guest operating systems in one host operating system is called as virtualization concept. Hypervisor software will be used to achieve this. Hypervisor software will be used to achieve this. We need to install all the required softwares in host OS to run our application. Here it is old technique to run the application. So system performance will become slow. System performance will become slow in this process. Will become slow in this process. Are you clear? Are you guys clear with this? To overcome the problems of the virtualization, we are going for containerization. To overcome the problems of virtualization, we are going for containerization concept. We are going for containerization concept. Now, what is a containerization? It is used to run the application as one container. It will run the application. It is used to package. It is used to package all the softwares and application code in one container for execution. It is used to package all the softwares required and application for execution. It is used to package all the softwares and application code in one container for execution. So containers are easy to execute. Container will take care of everything. Container will take care of everything which is required to run our application. Container will take care of everything which is required to run our application. So we can run the containers in multiple machines easily. We can run the containers in multiple machines easily without any setup. Do I need to do any setup if I want to run my application as a container? No, everything will be available inside the container. Container will take care of everything. Docker container will take care of everything to run our application. What is operating system you need? What operating system you need? Which version of Java you need? Which version of database you need? Which version of Tomcat you need? Everything will be taken care by Docker to run your application. You just need to tell to Docker what you need for your application. Docker will prepare the environment and Docker is going to create one container for your application. That container you can run easily in multiple machines. That container you can run in multiple machines. Docker containers are easily shippable. Docker is a containerization software. Docker is a containerization software. By using Docker, we will create the containers for our applications. Using Docker, we can create a container for our application. We can run that container in multiple machines. Using Docker software, using Docker software, we will create container for our application, container for our application, and container we are going to execute. Guys, if you see Docker architecture, if you see the Docker architecture, what it is going to tell us? Docker architecture. Whatever the container, whatever the systems, whatever the softwares that are required, easily we can execute by using Docker, because Docker is going to take care of everything which are required to execute our application. What are the softwares you need, which version of the softwares we want, everything will be taken care by Docker. Everything will be taken care by Docker. Now you see Docker container. Docker containers will be created. So whatever the container you created, that container you can execute in any machine, because Docker is going to take care of the configurations which are required for our application. Docker is going to take care of the softwares which are required to run our application. If you see the Docker symbol, if you see the Docker logo, ship will be available. If you see the Docker logo, ship will be available. Ship symbol is available. Why they gave it the logo as a ship symbol? Ship is easy to transfer the data from one place to another place, easily shippable. So easily you can ship your containers from one place to another place, from one machine to another machine. That's why they have given the Docker logo as a ship. They have given the Docker logo as a ship. Are you guys clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? Now, here our application will be developed by using Docker. Here our application will be available by using Docker. Application with Docker. Now, whenever we use our application with Docker, then with this application, with the Docker, we are going to create one Docker image. We will understand all these things in the coming sessions. I'm giving you just overview. So here, with this application where we have a Docker, by using that, we are going to create one Docker image. Docker image will be created. So you can share the images with the other people also, they can use it. By using Docker image, we are going to create Docker container. Now, so once the Docker image is available, you can take the Docker image, you can create the Docker container, and you can execute the Docker container in multiple machines. This is my machine one computer. This is my machine 2. Machine 1 is available, machine 2 is available, and I'm going to take care of machine 3. Now, so once the Docker image is available, we will take this Docker image of our application to the machine 1. From this image, we are going to create Docker container. We are going to take Docker container, we are going to execute. Do I need to install any software in the machine 1, machine 2, machine 3? Docker container will take care of that. Do I need to install any software to run my application, or Docker container will take care of that? Do I need to take care of any softwares which are required? Docker container is going to take care of that. Docker container is going to take care of all the softwares which are required. So now we are going to develop an application by using Docker, right? So from this Docker, we are going to create a Docker image. Once the Docker image is available, I will download the Docker image in all the machines, wherever I want to run my application. Once the image is available, from the image, I will create the Docker container. Docker container I will execute. Then my application dependencies will be taken care by Docker container. If I want to run my application in 10 machines, what I need to do, guys? Do I need to check which version of the Java available in the 10 machines? Do I need to check which operating system available in the 10 machines? Do I need to check which server available? Do I need to check which database available? Everything will be taken care by Docker. Come on. Do I need to take care of the software versions, or Docker containers will take care of it? Do I need to take care of them, or Docker is going to take care of that? Who will take care of all the dependencies required to run our application? Who will take care of all the details to run our application? Docker, Docker container. Docker container is going to take care of all these things. Docker container is going to take care of all these things. Are you clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point now? Earlier, when we want to run our application, in the multiple machines, what we need to do manually? We need to set up the computers, we need to install the softwares, we need to check which version of the software is available. Everything we need to take care manually when we go and develop a application without Docker. But if you use Docker, what will happen if you use a Docker? Do you need to take care of the dependencies to run our application? Docker will take care of the dependencies to run our application. Docker will take care of the dependencies to run our application. Docker is a containerization software. Docker is a containerization software. Okay, now let us see what is Docker. What is Docker? Official website itself telling what is Docker. Docker is a platform as a service product that use OS level virtualization to deliver software packages called containers. Your complete project will be packaged as a Docker container. Your complete project will be packaged as a Docker container. Okay, it is having both free and premium tiers. The software that hosts the container is called as a Docker engine. So Docker engine is going to run our application. Docker engine is going to run our application. Are you guys clear with this? Developers love Docker, businesses trust it. Developers love Docker. Why? Because it is easy to run our application in the multiple machines. It is easy to run our application in the multiple machines. Businesses trust that because it is reliable. People can trust it. People can trust it. So Docker is having a ship command, ship logo. Why it is having a ship logo? Why it is having a ship logo? Build, share, run. See here, they are going to follow a slogan: build. Create your project with the Docker. Docker files will be available. Build that. Image will, you have to build the Docker image. You can share the Docker image. You can share the Docker image to multiple machines. Once you share the Docker image, then you can run that Docker image. So when you run the Docker image, Docker container will be created. The Docker container will take care of everything which is used to run our application. Understood? What is Docker? Containerization. It is used to package all the softwares and application code in one container for execution. Container will take care of everything which is required to run our application. We can run the containers in multiple machines. Easily. Docker is a containerization software. Using Docker software, we will create container for our application. Container will take care of everything which is required to run our project. Now, using Docker, we will create the image for our application. Using Docker, we will create image. For our application. Docker images we can share easily. To multiple machines. Using Docker image, we can create Docker container and we can execute it. So when I am running a project by using Docker container, do I need to take care of all the softwares which are required? Come on, guys. Do I need to take care of all the softwares which are required? Docker will take care of application and application dependencies for execution. So final statement, what I can say here is conclusion. Docker is a containerization software. What I can say that? Docker is a containerization. Docker is a containerization software. Docker will take care of Docker will take care of application and application dependencies for execution. Docker is a containerization software. Docker will take care of application and application dependencies for execution. Development, deployments, deployments, task, deployment task will become easy if we use Docker containers concept. Deployments into multiple environments. Deployments into multiple environments will become easy if we use Docker containers concept. Are you clear? So finally, can you tell me what is Docker? Why we are going for Docker? Can you guys tell me what is Docker and why we are going for Docker? Conclusion, guys, can you tell me what is Docker? Why we are going for Docker? What is Docker? Docker is a containerization software. Why we are using Docker containers? Why we are using Docker containers? Dependency free. So whatever the dependencies are there for our application execution will be taken care by Docker containers. Now, if I use Docker, is it easy to deploy the application to multiple environments, or it is difficult if I use Docker? Same image we are going to download in the multiple machines and we are going to execute. It is only one-time effort. So whatever the softwares you want to run your application, you are going to configure only one time. If you don't have a Docker, in every machine you have to install all the softwares to run. If I want to run my project in 10 machines, in the 10 machines I have to install these all softwares. But if I go for a Docker, just I will tell to Docker, please go and download these softwares. One time if I am going to configure, then Docker will download everything to run our application. Docker container will be available. Okay. So I hope you understood what is Docker and why we need to go for Docker. In the tomorrow session, we are going to install Docker. So today we understood what is Docker. Docker is a containerization software which is easy, which is used to deploy, which is used to simplify application deployment into multiple machines. If we don't have a Docker, then as a DevOps engineer, you need to take care of the application dependencies. You need to install the dependencies in all the machines to run your application. That is difficult. Version conflicts will be available. In machine, Java 6 version available, but our project requires a Java 7 version. So such kind of version problems will come. So all those issues can be resolved by using this Docker containers concept. So if you use the Docker containers, it is easy to run our application in multiple machines, right? Now, so tomorrow we are going to understand how to install the Docker and what is the Docker architecture. How to install the Docker and what is the Docker architecture that we are going to discuss in